Good afternoon to all of you from the NorthCap University and welcome back to the NorthCap Masterclass, series of talks wherein you get to listen to eminent thinkers, scholars and leaders sharing their perspectives on what's happening in the world and how it will impact you. University has a unique place in human society as an institution that has power to shape the minds. It's the only institution known to mankind. And this power comes from its people. Great universities are magnets for finest students and faculty. Over the last 25 years, the NorthCap University has been such a place, a meeting ground of talented students and faculty. That our graduates are welcomed all over the world in leading companies and top campuses abroad should come as no surprise. At NCU, we take a deep interest in the future of everything: mankind, society, economy, industry. Just look at all the specializations we offer across engineering, management, and law, and you will understand. From artificial intelligence to augmented or virtual reality to cybersecurity to Internet of Things to cloud computing, business analytics, digital, and the latest trends in law, we are there. We take pains to offer degrees that will matter to you in future, and that makes us a top university. This intent also drives our recent collaboration with Arizona State University, the leading American university. Our partnership is exclusively the first of its kind in India in terms of its coverage, breadth, and depth, all designed to give you a degree that will be valued in your hands for the rest of your working lives. Dear students, we have been talking about in this series about how technology has impacted the society. About 45 years ago, the movie series Star Wars had come in and very quickly became a rage. It was a fantastic science fiction at that time and still has a strong fan club amongst the older generations. It showed us many inventions, and many of those inventions which were only imagined at that time are already here. In Star Wars, devices talk to other devices with decisions. No human beings were involved, and that was incredible. It was unbelievable in 1970s. We already know today it's called Internet of Things. In this session, you will hear from somebody who has been immersed in new technologies, especially the Internet of Things. Let me introduce our guest. Mr. Vinay Solanki brings 2 decades of years of experience in business development, strategy, partner management, sales, and technology management within diverse domains such as IoT, digital transformation, Wi-Fi, fintech, and trading technologies. He is currently General Manager and Head Digital Solutions at Napino, a leading electronics original design manufacturer in India. He has gained exposure to a variety of industries such as IT, telecom, PC, investment banking at numerous firms such as Lenovo, Airtel, Goldman Sachs, and Tata Consultancy. He holds an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and an MS in Computer Science from State University of New York, Binghamton in US. He is the founder of the world's third largest community, IoT NCR, with 8,000 plus members. He is recognized at global top 20 thought leaders in IoT and analytics by Thinkers 360. He is a TEDx speaker and a member of NASSCOM, DOT Tech, as well as author of Your Story, EFY, IoT Central, and International Media. Today, he speaks on the topic smart devices in the digital. In this series, we have been talking about the powerful changes unleashed by these technologies. Remember that these technologies are out to impact all of us, not just engineers. Vinay, welcome to the NorthCap University, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Padalkar, and thank you to the NorthCap University and the management for giving me this opportunity. This is my second time, so I'm very excited. We have been engaged with you in the past through our community at NCR. So without any further delay, I will just quickly share my screen And please let me know if the PPT is visible.
It is visible, Vinay.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think as Mr. Padalkar mentioned, that the world is very, very rapidly moving towards adopting new technologies, right? Like AI, IoT, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, etc. And what is happening is that each and every business or governments across the globe are transforming, and they are adopting digital technology. Especially in the last 2 years, if you have seen what has happened, while pandemic has been really, really created a lot of negative impact for all of us in some form or shape, it has also created an opportunity and kind of a boon for people to technology and for service providers like us to support their digital transformation journey. I think today we are going to talk a bit about IoT first, conceptually, and then we will go and try to understand a bit on digital transformation. Please feel free to ask your questions on the chat window that you see on the screen. And I will try to take some pause in between to take up some questions as I complete a particular topic. So we are going to roughly take around 40-45 minutes overall, I would say. Now, I think Mr. Padalkar has already introduced me, so I will not spend much time here. But I will summarize my passion for IoT by saying that I live, breathe, and smoke IoT. Actually, it's an amazing technology which has been there for many years now, but it has picked up pace in the last decade or so across the globe in various form and examples of where IoT is making its impact. Okay. So before we talk about IoT, let me talk a bit about like going back a few decades or maybe around 40-50 years back and understanding what happened in the globe, right, with machines coming into play. So if I take a simple analogy, right, and I say that machine communicates like a child, and why it is important to understand. Right, I understand all of you are in your very, very early stage of your career and getting into engineering and computer science programs, right? But if I look at a young child or even an infant, right, most of the time what they do is they communicate by crying with the world around them, with their parents or siblings or whoever it is. Because if they are feeling hungry, they will cry. If they are having a stomach ache, they will cry. If they're having a fever, they will cry, or maybe throw tantrums, right? Which means they will use non-sign language, non-communicative language, okay, to express themselves. But as they become smarter, they adapt, they learn the language, and then they start communicating and talking verbally, right? Now, when they are communicating like an infant, what will their parent do, right? They take some actions based on some assumptions that, okay, if the child is crying, maybe the child is hungry, they will feed, or they will check the temperature and realize that the child need to be taken to the doctor, or maybe try something else, right? So they will do trial and error mechanisms. But when they start talking, of course, be able to communicate better. Think of the machines in a similar way. And going to the pre-IoT era or the pre-sensors era, or the era when there was not much computing power, not much number of mechanism available to express what is going on the machine, with the machine on the shop floor, they will fail. They will actually stop working suddenly. So there will be a downtime, correct? And then we will go and take some actions as a shop floor expert or an engineer. But if I go and look at some of the examples that we have seen in the industry, and take an example of Coca-Cola bottling plant around, I would say, roughly 35-40 years back when they started. The Coca-Cola bottling plant basically were deploying sensors on the shop floor, with some PLC, power line communication mechanism, and some computers attached to them, which will basically help the machines to talk to each other in a limited fashion. Okay. Think of a Coca-Cola bottling plant setup. There will be a machine to clean the bottle, a machine to fill the Coke in the bottle, the liquid in the bottle, then a machine to cap the bottle, and probably a machine to pack the bottle, right? There are 4 machines, let's say. So the machine that is filling the soda or the Coca-Cola inside the bottle need to understand that, whether the machine, which is the previous machine, has cleaned the bottle properly or not. If it is not being cleaned, then there is no point in putting the soda in the bottle, right? Or the machine that is capping the bottle should know whether the liquid has been filled in the bottle or not, right? So they need to talk to each other in some mechanism. Can I talk to me using sensors or using computers? Yes, right? Where they can start talking to me and tell me what is going on in a better way. So rather than just crying, they can actually start speaking or talking to me, right? So if I look at that and start trying to understand what was that called, that was called as machine-to-machine communication, M2M. And then came the term IoT, right? Where people said, hey, my machine will not just talk to each other. They can also talk to the network. They can also talk to the internet, and also share their data on the network, on the internet, right? And then enable some more value addition to the end user. So the first time this term was coined or used was by Mr. Kevin Ashton, who is also sometimes called as father of Internet of Things, in 1999, okay? During a presentation at Procter & Gamble, where he was trying to explain the concept of using a simple RFID tags, okay? RFID, radio frequency ID tags. I think you all would know this term. These are very common, right, today, where you go and scan a card to enter a building, or you mark your attendance or do something else. RFID is very commonly used everywhere. It's a very cheap product. It's like a magnetic strip. So he said that why can't we employ RFID tags in our supply chain? When a product of P&G leaves our warehouse or maybe our manufacturing plant, we can probably put a tag and track it, right? And then he said that IoT can be defined as a system where the internet is connected to the physical world via ubiquitous sensors. So what he meant to say is that I can use many sensors which can sense a certain value, like a location or a temperature or humidity or something else, right? And then transport that data to the network via internet. But then IoT also became more and more popular after that in the 2000s, especially around 2008, 2009, when various companies, including Cisco, they said that IoT was born somewhere between 8 and 9, 2008, 2009, when the number of devices connected to the internet, they surpassed the world's population. It was roughly, they predicted that in 2012, there were 8.7 billion devices connected to the internet. And they also predicted that in 2020, which is last year, it will be somewhere between 30 to 50 billion devices connected to the internet. Now, today, I think many of you might be wearing a fitness tracker or might be carrying a smartwatch or a smartphone, most of us, right, which are connected to the internet, to the network. But we also probably would have an Alexa at home or a smart bulb at home or a connected car, right? Like MG Hector ad, right? Where it says internet inside, right? Which means the car has some kind of sensors and also some systems, electronic control unit, ECU, which can actually talk to this sensor, collect the data, and maybe it can also talk to the internet, to the network of the MG Hector platform to do its function, or maybe to provide some information to the driver, right? There can be infotainment that is also connected. So if you look at the number of devices today in 2020, it has already roughly crossed 30 billion devices fairly well, which means the prediction where IoT is going to become popular and available ubiquitously is actually coming true. So when I talk about IoT and when I talk about other technology I mentioned, right, artificial intelligence, AI, or machine learning, or when I talk about any other digital transformation tech, right, like blockchain or AR, VR, or even I don't know if you have heard the word RPA, robotic process automation, or if you have heard the newer terms which are coming up recently, right? Chatbots, right, which are used for RPA purpose. They all actually enable what? They all enable digital transformation for businesses or for consumer like us, or even for governments, right? You must have heard something called a smart city, right? And few years back, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, they basically said that we should have 100 smart cities in India, because smart cities can enable smart delivery of services to the citizens, right? Uh, but if I look at from a technology stack perspective, in this area, I can probably talk about a bit of an ecosystem of digital technology, right? So when I covered IoT in the previous slide, from a definition perspective, and if you break down IoT into three concepts, right? Internet of things. Things means devices or machine or sensors or my smartphone, which is a hardware, right? Internet, which means network. It can be 2G, 3G, 4G network or 5G. It can be Wi-Fi. It can be Bluetooth. It can be something else. And then there has to be some application, right? If you look at your mobile phone, you basically have a app that tells you the number of steps you take in a day, right? So there is the role of three players. One is the device or hardware, then there is network, then there is application. So, and if I map that into the ecosystem of some players, right? And now, why I'm talking about this chart here, especially for you as the young generation entering into your building your career, you would want to build your career in some line. And if I break it up from a transformation stack perspective, we are looking at three buckets here. The bottommost bucket is hardware programmers, device makers, or resellers, right? Who are these people? These are the people who come from backgrounds in electronics, telecommunication, networks, or even firmware development, or designing a hardware, or designing a PCB, right? These are the players who will make the devices that you connect to the internet to make them IoT enabled, okay? Which is device makers and resellers and hardware programmers, right? So that is one. Then comes network service provider, the second from the bottom. Who are these? These are the players like Airtel or Reliance Jio or Vodafone, or even other network service providers who provide you Wi-Fi in your home, internet broadband, or even companies that offer other technologies. You can read up on technologies like LoRa, L-O-R-A, or Sigfox. These are some of the upcoming or widely used technologies in the IoT domain to provide you the internet connectivity or the connectivity to the devices. So these are the role played by network providers. So you might be thinking that if I go into computer science and if I want to enter into telecommunication or a company like Bharti Airtel, for example, what should I be ready with? What will be my skill set? What should I learn? It will be something in the network designing side. Can you create a new network of systems or a mesh connectivity, or provide some new protocol or new innovation in that area? And then third category, which is at the top, broken down into four buckets, are software solution provider, okay, like Microsoft, Google, IBM, integrators, or sometimes called as system integrators, like IBM plays a role in system integration, or Sterlite Technology, Nagaro, or even other companies in and outside India who provide the capability to integrate a solution, right? Then a data scientist and domain experts and GTM partners, okay? Now, software solution provider are the company who will build the application either in the cloud, like Azure or AWS, or they will be companies which will build mobile applications to make the IoT accessible to you or to the businesses, right? So I already took an example of an app that shows you the number of steps you take in a day, and that by tell you how you're maintaining your health, right? So there can be the companies in that area. It could be startups, it could be large players, it could be mid-sized companies. So for you, again, as students, to look for your career, you might enter into a company and start working as a mobile programmer, or you might start working as a cloud developer or a DevOps person, or even someone who basically write programs for firmware or in the network or something like that, right? So that is software solution provider. System integrator, which means to actually bring everything together and deploy the solution on the ground, an IoT solution on the ground, and make it available to the businesses or the end user. Then, of course, go-to-market partners are typically companies who help you to sell this solution. So there can be career for people from technology background to become like a pre-sales engineer, right? Who basically can write proposals or technical documents and technical commercial proposals, right, for the end user. They can be part of this area. Also, one very important role to be played is by the data scientists and the domain experts. Why? Because IoT is what? IoT at a very basic is a generator of data or information or enabler of digital transformation. But what will you do with that data if it cannot be manipulated, or if it cannot be massaged, or it cannot be analyzed by using software programs or machine learning algorithms to make sense out of that data? So that's where you need people who understand that domain very well, right? So example could be someone like me who probably today understands manufacturing in the electronic domain side and can analyze whether IoT is useful for me by thinking whether it can be employed on my PCB manufacturing process or my assembly process. It could be a retail expert. It could be someone in the oil and gas industry. It could be someone in the smart city segment, or it could be someone else. Now, by the way, I want to touch one more important point, that today what IoT has done, they have made other technologies very applicable and very relevant today. It is not just a computer science graduate or a computer engineer or electronics and telecommunication who find application in digital transformation or a career. It can be a civil engineer or mechanical engineer or other fields who can actually make very good profile and career in digital transformation. Why? Because when you think of today's products, right, you need mechanical designers and engineers who can design very good mechanical products or enclosure around an electronic product. Think of a smart watch, right? It is not just an electronic. It has a lot of mechanical around it. Or think of a smartphone. There is a lot of mechanical around it. Civil engineers, smart cities. You need a lot of civil engineers, people who can design smart cities, who can design applications for delivering a service to a citizen smartly, right? Like a smart meter, for example, or a bridge that is connected with smart sensors that can track whether the bridge is having a right strength or it needs any preventive maintenance or not, right? Or even designing a ecosystem of a community. That is also important, right? So that's why I wanted to touch this slide for you to understand that there is role for every one of us to play in some of the other bucket of IoT or IoT solution or a digital transformation solution. But not just that, there is also role to be played by a supporting ecosystem like governments and regulators who is supposed to regulate the adoption of digital technology. Think of data security or data privacy policies. It is designed and written by regulators, but they need experts like us, right, to guide or to consult on. Then innovation hubs or communities like IoT NCR that was quoted earlier. We are one of the third largest IoT community with 8,000 members and growing. There are various other communities, but these are the people who come together to create something innovative. And of course, standards and research bodies. You need a Department of Telecom to create standards. You need our regulations. You need also research bodies across the globe who research on different technologies and innovations. Okay. So with that, I just want to define digital transformation, and then I will take up some questions before we move to the next section, or talking about different smart devices and their application and the ecosystem. So digital technologies, they enable businesses to fundamentally change or optimize the processes and operations, right? That is what I covered earlier. Think of COVID, right? Manufacturing setups, when the COVID happened, they could not have their people go to their plant. So what they had to do, like even at Napino, where I come work right now, we looked at adopting digital technology where we can enable remote working or work from home environment. We also adopted technology where we can allow people to mark attendance in the factories, in our plants, using maybe Bluetooth instead of fingerprinting. So we evaluated that and we have employed that at one of the plant, right? So that people don't have to touch their finger, especially in COVID time. We also look at other technologies. We are analyzing computer vision, right, as a technology for quality assurance of our PCB board. So that in future, if something similar happen, our plant can run, our quality process can run with minimal human intervention. We also look at other capability as well. So digital technologies who enable my business to fundamentally either change or optimize processes, right? Now, what it means technically, it means that integrating various technologies, which I covered, AI, cloud, IoT, RPA, mobile, mixed reality, like augmented or virtual reality, into my areas of my business operations, right? Now, that will enable my business to become more agile, to fail fast or fail forward, which means if I'm adopting innovation, I can also adopt newer products and services in my businesses, or I can offer new products and services to my customers. And I can work with them in a rapid environment. I can work with them in an agile environment where I and my customer can fail. If we need to fail, we will fail fast, and we can innovate together on newer products and services for the customer. For example, car or a bike has not remained only a mode of medium or a transportation, right? They have also become a mode of experience. They have also become a vehicle of experience, right? You don't just drive a car today, but you want to enjoy your driving. You want to experience an innovative smart car with other features today. So that means it's a newer product offering by automotive industry to the market by adopting newer technologies like IoT or AI. If I summarize, the word digital is actually used in various contexts and is understood differently by different leaders and businesses. But if you look at the very basic, simple definition, the core is to evaluate the why we need to transform and what is the target that we need to transform our business for. Okay, it is customer centricity, becoming more customer centric business or a company or a product, enhancing my customer experience, like I explain an example of a vehicle or a car. It can be applied to a retail store. It can be applied to a city, to an oil and gas service provider, or even as simple as providing a smart meter where I don't have to send someone to take the reading, right? But at the end, it can also be to improve my profit margins or enhancing the productivity of my shop floor. See, ultimately, every business will adopt technology only when it makes sense from an ROI perspective, correct? So before we move into our market sizing, other thing, I just want to see if there are questions from anyone from the participant list. You can post your question on the chat window. Okay, so that's a very good question. When and how you started your own business? So of course, I work for a company today, but what I have done is, and I have experienced mentoring a lot of startups in the past, and I also mentor some of them right now. And I can tell you the experience of starting a new business and the ideas, right? Where come from? The ideas can come from anywhere, honestly. When you look at IoT as a technology, or when you look at you and me, we actually can look at ideas from all around us on a daily basis, right? There can be so many problem statements that you can see around you, and you can start thinking that how can I resolve a problem or a pain point? A problem could be that a garbage bin is overflowing, and you might think that can I do some solution where I can offer to my municipality a mechanism of figuring out what is the level of the garbage in the garbage bin, so that they can do their job by coming and clearing up the garbage bin. That can be one area. Or it could be area where you can look at a pain point in your home, that I'm not getting a proper signal in my bedroom. Can I create a new router, or maybe a mesh of router that can provide a better solution? So the ideas can come from any of the pain point that you and I live on a daily basis. It can come from your friend, or maybe in your school, in your college, you can find some of the area where you can adopt technology and make it more efficient. Maybe saving the energy bill on your appliances, or making your lights more smarter, or something else. Difficulties, okay, there are many difficulties for a startup, but it is also a very interesting area. Why? Because when you look at startup, you don't do a startup for the sake of having fun. You make sure that you want to start a company or a business in order to make solve a pain point and make money, of course, for you and for your investors. So that means you have to be ready to understand that, one, is your idea really timely, and is your idea really solving a pain point that is huge in terms of market scope and market size? And second, whether there is something available in with you and your team to solve their pain point at an economical way, right? Your product, your service need to be more cost and price competitive, right? It need to be more available in a mechanism that it can solve the pain point and still generate an ROI for the user or for the business. The next question is, what are the upcoming requirement in digital world and sector you feel it's much? Okay, so some of my slides are going to cover the requirements, but to give you an idea, digital technology and the digital world is actually growing very fast. Look at fintech, financial technology. Financial technology is growing very rapidly in India. In fact, today, if you go to LinkedIn, you'll find that India has become the #1 country in the world when it comes to number of financial transactions using digital money or digital mode of medium. It has surpassed China as well, right? And far beyond US. So fintech is one area. Look at mobile technologies. Wherever a mobile application can be built to make something easier. For example, Aadhaar is a service that is delivered actively through mobile app. Look at today, when you go to take vaccine, in minutes you get a SMS, and then you can download your certificate on COVID, right? Or even other mechanism. So that is also a digital service delivery. If you think of IoT, there are so many digital requirements in different use cases. I already covered in automotive, I covered in retail. There are other medium as well. Now, which is a sector that is going to be growing fast? I can say one of the largest area that is going to adopt technology like IoT is supply chain industry. Okay, which impacts every businesses. A vaccine supply chain also needs a mechanism to monitor the temperature of the vaccine when it is on the road, right? Because the vaccine need to be maintained at a particular temperature range, right? And you need to monitor it. If it is not maintaining that, it will be of no use, right? Or you need to also monitor your perishable items or milk or other items, or even anything that is transported from one point to another, whether on the road, in the ship, in the airplane, or any other mode of transportation or multimodal transportation. Supply chain is huge. I think that is one area that is going to be very large. Second is also industrial IoT or industry 4.0 or industrial IoT, whatever you call it. Like industries adopting technology to make their life easier, to be more efficient, as I covered on this slide, to be more productive, or improving their profit margin by reducing their cost, and so on. Okay, the question by a lot of ideas running in our mind. I think it is more startup oriented. I will cover if the time permits at the end of the day. But if there is any other question, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move to the next section. Okay. So I think some of you have asked this question, and I think when you work in any area, right, or you build career in any profile, like around 7-8 years back when I graduated from IMA, I decided that I want to build my career in IoT. Why? Because I was researching before that for around 2-3 years when I was in US, that which is a new technology that is going to make it's going to make a very high impact. It's going to revolutionize the thing around it. And I posted a quote on LinkedIn some time back that if IT transform your life, then IoT is going to revolutionize it, actually. Why? Because it is making IT even more applicable and relevant by connecting not just human beings to the network, also everything around us, sensors, machines, devices. When you look at digital transformation market, right, and the growth opportunity, it is basically considered to be $1 trillion opportunity. And if you look at a breakup, right, roughly in 2020, it was expected that this market was somewhere around $500 billion, roughly. And it is also projected that it is going to grow at 16.5% annually, okay, compounded annual growth rate, CAGR. And by 2025, it should be roughly $1,000 billion market, which is $1 trillion, right? And why? Because as I said, you cannot experience today something if it is not connected to you digitally, right? Whether it is some service, some product, going to a hotel, eating in a restaurant, or driving your car, talking to your friends using Zoom, how we are talking to each other today, right? Or anything other that you can experience today, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep or bed. And one of the good area you can look at is that APAC is going to contribute a majority of this revenue. Why? Because there are a lot of countries in APAC which have adopted technology much faster. They're in fact leapfrog some generations of technology. Think of India. India adopted fintech like no other country could in the world. Why? Because we had the pain point of making payments, whether not just in rural area, urban area, but in rural towns or even in small villages. One of the mechanism was that, can I really adopt technology faster? Can I make payment for my services using something as simple as a mobile phone and SMS? So it has become very, very relevant for all of us. Now, I covered this, but I want to say this again, that whenever there is a pain point, there is a necessity, then the technology becomes very relevant, and people are forced to adopt it. So positively, during pandemic, people, all of us realize that you cannot survive without, for example, Zoom. If you want to work from home, you need a mechanism to talk to each other. You cannot survive because now you cannot travel to your workplace, but you need to monitor your shop remotely, your retail store remotely, your office remotely, your plant remotely, your supply chain, your trucks, or even government needed to monitor the safety of their citizen remotely by using camera, and any other thing, right? We could not travel, we cannot meet each other face to face. So it forced every business to adopt technology. And in fact, it caused the speed of adoption of digital transformation. It increased it by 4 times to 5 times at a minimum. Supply chain disruption happened. Customer touch point need to be innovated. Work from home, time to market actually became shorter. And most important, changing spending habit, right? If you think, all of us, what did we do? The first thing, the pandemic hit and we all were sitting home. We stopped spending on luxury item because we can only spend on necessity. We can only spend on internet connectivity, broadband. We can spend on some online purchases. But did we think of spending on luxury? Because we cannot go to 5-star. We cannot actually spend on luxury item which we cannot enjoy at home. We have to go outside for that. So it made actually an impact in every CIO and CTO's mind to rethink about their digital strategy. Even the management had to rethink their digital strategy. And they said that, I think I have to reinvent fast and make it ensure that my business can run. So BCP, business continuity planning, became the word of this last 2 years. Actually, people had to realize that in the future also something like this could come up again. And that's when IDC also predicted that the services market grew by 10% in 2020, crossing a spend of USD $1.3 trillion. One area which touched all professionals is remote working, and digital technology and the products moved from nice to have to a must have in order to work for all of us, right? So I think when I talk about IoT, AI, machine learning, or anything, right, today, I want to also talk about why, as young generation who's entering into your college time, you need to start thinking very early on that how do I make myself relevant? What should be my mind to learn? And I think your professors, your college have designed a very good curriculum around it. But in addition to the curriculum, you I think some of you were asking that what will be the idea that can come to my mind? How do I know which idea is something where I can start a startup or maybe build my career? What I think, and this is something I actually thought that one of the career mantra could be this 3L strategy: learn, leverage, and lead. Okay, learn. Learn means you continue to learn, reskill, upskill yourself with latest trends and technologies in the market. I think especially for all of us, especially for me, who is basically already into the mid career, we need to understand that how do I keep myself relevant for new technologies. But I feel even for students, as you will cover your 4 year in your program, and you make yourself ready for the industry, in this 4 year there will be a lot of new technologies that might come into play. What you are learning in first year may already become obsolete in the 4th year or the 5th year. Actually, there might be some new technologies that might come into play. So I think one important focus you have to keep is learn continuously and understand what is the latest and greatest in the industry. Number one. Second is also build your network and try to understand how can you leverage your network. It is very, very important that you understand how to talk to people, how to engage, how to network with people on LinkedIn or other professional media, or even other mediums like communities, and build a network of people who can come together to solve a pain point, right? If you want to do a startup, you won't be able to do it alone. You have to know that if I understand technology, can I find someone who understands business very well and work with them together? So learn both technical skills or hard skills, but also focus on learning soft skills, people skills, relationship building skills, so that you can actually, the moment into your career, you have such a strong network that it will help you to grow faster. If you want to jump into a startup, you can do that. If you want to continue into corporate or enterprise, you can do that. Anywhere you go, you need to know how to leverage this network and make it more useful for you and your network as well. And third is, of course, taking initiative, which is like ensuring that whether you're at your workplace or whether you're a student in your school, you build focus group, you build communities, take some new initiative. Like, for example, a few years back, I thought of building this community, IoT NCR. I thought, let me launch this community on Meetup and see how many people are interested in IoT in Delhi NCR region, and start talking to them, start meeting them, come together, do some tinkering of some Raspberry Pi or Arduino products, right? And make something new together. And then fortunately, it started growing very fast. Fortunately, many hands joined together, and we actually, I think, grew very fast as a community. So with that, I think I want to summarize that when you look at the skills, from artificial intelligence to machine learning, IoT, augmented reality, virtual reality, mobile cloud computing, robotic process automation, or even hardware architecting, embedded programmer, and other areas like communication protocol designer or a process designer, all of these ultimately are coming together, or they're converging very fast to make a digital transformation relevant today. In fact, IoT and AI, they are converging even more rapidly because they cannot work standalone. AI needs data, right? You need data to do machine that. And IoT needs AI to make sense of that data. So they cannot be standalone. They have to somewhere come together to make things more relevant and useful for the businesses. So with that, I want to take up questions. This is the last slide from my side. Okay, so there is one question from Kunal. Wouldn't automating things challenge the necessity of humankind? It is more of an ethical, very, very good question. I think very relevant. And I must say, I think you thinking about that is very, very good at such a young age. I think it's right that when you start adopting newer technology and automate, there will be some displacement of jobs. There will be some disruption, and which will cause some people become not relevant in what they are doing today. That is true. But you look at the bigger picture and go back to my 3L strategy, right? You have to upskill and reskill. In fact, many businesses today are investing time and money in reskilling, upskilling their works, in also not just the workforce in the office, but the workforce on the line, on the operators, the blue collar workers, train them on how to use robots and work in conjunction with automation or with IoT. What will happen is new jobs might come into picture. So there might be displacement temporarily of existing job profiles, but there will be newer opportunities or newer jobs that will come into play. Think of many years back, right? People thought that if I look at industrial transformation, we are today talking about industry 4.0. When industry 1.0 came, right, automation or mass scale production, there were job displacement. Then came electronification. Then came adoption of fast assembly lines. Every industrial transformation had the same question that, hey, what will happen to the people? There was a temporary displacement, but there were new opportunities for people to work or people to find jobs or newer area. Maybe your mind, my mind, if it becomes free from mundane tasks, we might innovate in some area and create more job opportunities. Any other questions? Let me see the chat window. Okay. Any books? Yeah, good question. So there are some resources I've posted here. Actually, if you look at one book in IoT, which is very good, is Amazon Way of IoT. I like that, actually. That was a good book. You can also read up in digital transformation and IoT. There is one book. I can share the name of the author. I'm just forgetting the name right now for technical topic. But I also recommend there is a book by Mr. Paul Cohen, I think, on the way of digital transformation. That is also very relevant. Then if you look at non-technical book, I would recommend highly to read Growth Mindset. That is one book which is very, very relevant for younger generation. And The Power of Subconscious Mind by Paul Coelho, I think. That is also very relevant. I studied I think few years back. That actually opens up your way of thinking and way of learning new things around you. If you look at these articles that I'm sharing here, some of them also mention some books in their article references as well. Any other question? So yeah, if no questions, then I think I'm kind of done from my end. But yeah, open to more questions if any.
Maybe I can ask a couple of questions, Vinay. That was
Sure.
very nice presentation. Very powerful argument for technology. But suppose I am not a technology type.
Yeah.
In fact, technology and the complexity terrifies me. What should I do in the future that you are outlining, where there will be only machines and talking to each other, and technology will super dominate?
Yeah. So I think, see, when okay, let me take this question in two parts. One is like, what role can a people who are not technologists play in digital transformation era, or where machines are going to do most of the things, right? Like recently we were talking internally in our company, and we were also engaging with some other people, that the role of designers, for example, UI UX designer, or people who are in creative field, is actually become very relevant today, because the mechanism of delivering digital technology or services or products is and designing those interfaces of human to machine interface, HMI, as we call it. You need non-technology people who can understand that how a human can use this technology, for example. So these are the people who have no technical background, who are more from a creative industry, right? I mentioned about if I talk about non-engineers, right, or if I go to people in finance, people in marketing, people in other commercial domains, right, there are, I'm sure that, like, for example, when fintech picked up, people from finance domain with all these new product and digital services, like ability to trade on a mobile app, ability to book a mutual fund, so relevant, right? You, in addition to technologies, you also need the people from non-technical background to understand how to deliver that service, what kind of product combination portfolio will be there. Now, that's first part, which means even non-engineers have a lot of opportunities in digital transformation area. Definitely, yes. Finance, accounting, HR, management, commercial, non-commercial, etc. Supply chain. Second part, I think your question is that you're feeling scared, or let's say if you're feeling overwhelmed, that what will be my role to play. See, I cannot predict the future, at least 10, 20 years down the line. I don't know what can happen. But what I feel that the consumption of this technology, or the consumption of the data that is generated from this technology, will and the value this data can generate will create a lot of opportunities for people like us, who can actually think. Our brain is, of course, very, very complex than even the most powerful computer today. And there are certain patterns or analysis that can be done human brain or humans that can never be done by machine, at least in the near future, I think. So that's one thing that comes to my mind. I don't know if I answered it what you were expecting, but yeah,
No, you
that's
did. You did. You did. It's comforting to know that I'll still have a space in future, even though I may not be technologically oriented.
Yeah, I think the emotional intelligence or decency quotient, DQ and EQ and IQ, right? As we all see today and hear today, right? There are so many innovation are happening around us, which will help us to find room for people, even with coexisting with machines, or possibly. I don't want to go to the Terminator movie and think of the destruction of the human force, or even Avengers or someone, I think, taking over the planet and things like that. But definitely, I don't see why humans cannot innovate and find a better space or a newer space for themselves. We have done that in the last so many thousands of years, right? Yeah.
There is a question from a student.
Yeah.
He wants to know what hardships did you face in your career and how did you cope?
Excellent question. I think I just saw the chat. So Navjot, Mr. Navjot. Excellent question. I think we all face a lot of hardships, right? One thing that I want to say before I tell you what hardship I faced is being a risk taker is very important today. If you're not ready to take a risk, you will not be able to grow fast in your career. And I've taken multiple risks, and which has caused hardship as well. The risk of leaving US and coming back to India, settling, was a big risk that I took. Or risk of transitioning from a Goldman Sachs profile where I was an algo, like a developer, or not developer, a technology guy who was developing platform for algo trading, to suddenly switching to IoT is also very, very, very high risk that I took, right? But I wanted to pivot my career. So one hardship that I faced was, while I was doing my computer engineering in India, is that how do I really make myself relevant, um, to learn something new, which was not easily accessible during those days. Like today, you have a lot of mechanism to learn something new. And when I went into the industry, or even when I actually went to do my master's, it was very hard to understand and compete with the other students who were coming with more exposure to certain newer areas. And that was really, really tough, actually, in the first semester, and how to start reading and understanding newer areas. The same happened with when I went to do MBA. It was very different to understand, suddenly coming technology background, to now understand other areas of business like operations, strategy, accounting, and etc. From a student perspective. From a personal professional perspective also, I think like trying to understand which industry and which company will help me to prosper faster and grow faster took some time. I had to jump multiple jobs in the last 8 years in India to find the right place for myself, and it is very tough. Honestly, it is not easy to go to a newer place and prove yourself. So yeah, that's it.
One more question from Chitra. Let me read it.
Yeah, I just saw that. So this will be the last question. Unfortunately, I have another meeting that I need to take up, but I will try to tell you. I think, Chitra, good question. Networking and its importance, right? Networking. If you're talking about my 3L strategy, right? Think of I think I'm assuming your question is not regarding the internet networking or networks like 3G, 4G. Your question is around networking with other human beings, right? And building your profile as a career profile, right? Where you can grow faster. I think when you look at network, right? Think of today, right? For me to find a new career or job, a new job, I need a good network. For me to learn something new, I need a good network. I need a good mentor, right? So give you a specific example. When I was networking in IoT NCR, I found two good mentors for myself, who I can always rely on when I need to look at something new in my career, or when I'm confused, when I want to think of, hey, whether I can look at quantum computing as something that will become relevant in 20 years, or when I want to look, hey, how is IoT going to be applicable in oil and gas? So I have a mentor who comes from that background, who can always give me that guidance. So the importance of networking is tremendous, Chitra. Like, not just making friends in colleges, that is also a network, but trying to finding a mentor or a guide, or maybe someone professional in the industry who you can actually follow on LinkedIn, Twitter, or other area, and see what they're talking about, is also very, very important. Yeah.
Yes, we are approaching the hour now, and I think we have to go.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for a very, very insightful deep dive into the world of Internet of Things and technology. I hope we have made some converts from non-technology background to technology background. And when the COVID is behind us, we hope to see you on the campus.
Sure. I will be very happy to come and also engage with you to give some opportunity to your students as interns and recruit them possibly in my setup. Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.